So, full disclaimer, because this video is being published the way it is, I had to make some scheduling adjustments, so I'm actually recording this video at 8:41 p.m. PST Saturday, February 19th. It's the second period intermission between Vancouver and Anaheim. It's an absolute disaster piece of a game, and I'm going to make a video about that ripping into the Canucks once everything is said and done. But I'm using this time to talk about the Montreal Canadiens, and I know the Montreal Canadiens in about, 13 hours from me recording this audio, they're going to start playing the Islanders, so this video is going to come out after that Islanders game. Sorry, no recap here. Unfortunately, this version of Geo that is talking to you does not know what happened. But we had ourselves an article coming out in Washington Hockey Now, published by Sammy Silber. Now, this one is a really interesting idea that kind of has a lot more implications than not when you really start to think about why this entire conversation is even happening. So here's the title of the article. The report says, the Montreal Canadiens have expressed interest in the Washington Capitals' Ilya Samsonov. Now, who is that? Firstly, before we go over anything, Ilya Samsonov is a goaltender taken by the Washington Capitals in the 2015 NHL Entry Draft. Now, 2015 was one of the best drafts we have seen in a long time, and it's probably going to stay that way for a few years because the caliber of talent taken from, of course, the top-of-the-line guys. You have McDavid, you have Eichel, you have Marner, you have the guys taken at the end of the top 10, like Werenski and Meyer and Rantanen. Going forward even more down, you have Barzal, Connor, Shabbat, Besser, Colin White, Konechny, very good players right here, but in the midst of all these fantastic NHL talents coming into the league, you had yourselves what was the first goaltender taken off the board, 22nd overall by Washington. It was Ilya Samsonov. And, for good reason he was taken here. Like, everybody kind of knew that Russian goaltending was on the up and up. You got guys like Vasilevsky, of course, the younger goaltenders like Askarov, Samsonov, Sorokin, Shesterkin. Very good goaltending coming out of Russia right here. And Samsonov was in the midst of being considered among the best in that conversation. Now, I guess today you could say that Shesterkin has everybody beat, but Samsonov still was a very good goaltender who was a very good prospect for the Capitals. Ever since 2018-19, he had made his way over to the NHL, or not the NHL, but North America specifically after graduating from the KHL. He had a really tough time getting adjusted to NHL AHL play. As his first season in Hershey saw him get an .898 save percentage in 37 games played. But starting out with the regular Washington Capitals immediately afterwards, you could see the numbers right here, 16-6-2 in his first season, a .913 save percentage in 26 games. He's been pretty good since then, and now, if you take a look at his 21-22 stats, he is at a .906 save percentage in 29 games, 284 goals against, and he has a 17-7-3 record with 3 shutouts. Now, he's certainly not, one of the top goaltenders in the entire NHL, but he's 24 years old. He's got himself a $2 million AAV contract that expires this season. He's going to have to re-sign afterwards, and you still have a little bit of uncertainty as to what's going to happen with Washington because you also have Vitek Vanacek, who has been added onto this squad, and I say added onto this squad very loosely because he was only on Seattle for such a short amount of time, it doesn't really feel like he even left, but Ilya Samsonov, Vitek Vanacek, 2 guys in their mid-20s, 2 guys that are expiring at the end of this season. The Capitals are going to have to make a decision as to who they're going to keep long-term. This is sort of, reminding me of the Korpisalo-Merzlikins thing from a few years ago. Of course, they're still both with Columbus right now at the time of recording this audio, but one is probably going to go soon. And Washington is kind of in a similar situation there. Now, when it comes to Ilya Samsonov, the Montreal Canadiens, according to Washington Hockey Now, have indeed expressed interest in him. Per RDS, Montreal reached out to the Capitals about netminder Samsonov, and at the Habs Thursday game against the St. Louis Blues, the Capitals had a scout present, according to Montreal journalist J.F. Chaumont. Here is the tweet. It's in French, so I'm going to go ahead and translate that because I'm not confident in my French-speaking abilities anymore to be able to try to read this. There is a Washington Capitals scout at the Bell Center, but tonight for the game between the Blues and the Canadiens, there are 2 scouts from the Caps. Little information about a month before the trade deadline for trades. Samsonov has been picking up his play as late, and he recently set a new career high in consecutive games played. In his last 6 games, he has registered a .919 save percentage, which includes a .928 save percentage over the last 3 games. So even though his total body of work, a .906 save percentage this year for the Capitals, is not really too spectacular. He's got a 9.24 in his last 5 games, which is great to see. You love to see the confidence for these young guys going out there, even though Vanecek is also seen as a prime option to carry this team into the future. Samsonov has gotten that experience. The article here goes over how he has experienced some issues with consistency over the course of his career, but there is indeed still an apparent interest by the Montreal Canadiens. Now, my question here is why? Why would the Canadiens go out there and express interest in a guy that is in his mid-20s that could probably be a starting goaltender for the next, let's just say, decade of his career if you really wanted to push it? Why would they be involved here? And to me, it's kind of simple. You take a look at Jake Allen, okay, he's kind of out right now. You take a look at Michael McNiven, okay, he's also kind of out. You take a look at Carey Price, he's been out for a long time. You take a look at Caden Primo, he really has not shown off that he's good enough to be an NHL caliber guy so far. You take a look at Montembeault, sure, he's here, he's doing his thing, he's doing the best he can. There are some nights where Montembeault goes out there and absolutely stones the show, but you can't really expect that out of a guy who has been playing on this Canadiens team this entire year. And then you have Andrew Hammond as well, who was acquired by the Montreal Canadiens because they kind of needed some help in net. Now you take a look at Ilya Samsonov and you say, all right, Andrew Hammond is a cool story and all. We all love the Hamburglar folk tale that goes around here when it comes to talking about the Ottawa Senators, but Andrew Hammond doesn't solve the Canadiens' problems in net in the slightest, nor does waiting for Caden Primo to become good, nor does waiting for one of Price or Allen or McNiven to come back with flying colors either. The Montreal Canadiens kind of need some help, and if you really want to go out there and say that you're concerned about the future of Carey Price, the guy who's supposed to be the #1 goaltender, he's supposed to be the franchise starter of this team, this entire year, 21-22, has pretty much been a replacement year for everybody to cycle around in the absence of Carey Price. And if you really are insecure about how healthy Price is going to be next season, the year after that, 2 years from now, then why not go out there and try to get yourselves a goalie who can actually be a long-term starting option? That's something that Ilya Samsonov could provide if you were to give him that opportunity. Sorry, Caden Primo, you're just not good enough. What Caden Primo was supposed to be versus what he is today, it's so far and beyond what we expected that I feel kind of bad for the guy because he had all these expectations bestowed upon him by guys like me, to be honest, making videos about this player. But just seeing his development, he's not good enough. And that's why they acquired Andrew Hammond, because Andrew Hammond, an AHL guy with a crazy good story a few years ago for Ottawa, the Hamburglar, he's got himself probably a lot more poise and maturity to stick around at the NHL level, and for what the Canadiens are and what they need right now, they felt like that was a little bit more valuable, so they sent Primo down. And for Montembeault, I get it, I like Montembeault, everybody likes Montembeault, but this is a guy acquired on waivers. This was supposed to be an extra tertiary option for the Florida Panthers, and now he is out here for Montreal just being asked to make 50-plus saves every night. Like, you can't go out there and expect this kind of guy to develop properly under those circumstances, so for Montreal, I could totally understand that they're going out there and asking for another goaltender, for another young guy in his mid-20s that could probably help out long-term. And if Washington is that team to go out there and make a trade, send over a new goaltender to the Canadiens, they could have the option to just go out there and say, okay, Vitek Vanecek, you are our guy. You are sticking around here and you're pretty much manning the crease on your own now. Of course, Fucale is there as well, but I think it's a lot more likely that Vanecek gets the nod over Fucale. But when it comes to what a trade could look like, I do get super interested because Washington has indeed been one of those teams that was speculated to being heavily involved on Ben Sherratt trade talks. If you were to go out there and say that Sherratt gets you an Ilya Samsonov plus in return, then honestly, I'm kind of biting the bullet there. I like the sound of that, right? Ben Sherratt, the price everybody is talking about is a first and a prospect. What if it's just Samsonov and a second, or Samsonov and a third, or Samsonov and another prospect? Samsonov is a good goaltender, and he's a guy that could definitely be a lot better than he is today in a few years from now because, I mean, he's still developing, right? So talk to me in the comments if you're a Canadiens fan. What do you think about the idea of the Canadiens going after Ilya Samsonov? Sure, he is not a Sorokin. Sure, he is not a Shashirkin. Sure, he is probably not an Askarov. Sure, he is probably not a Vasilevsky. But what Samsonov projects to be is a pretty stable #1 starter who could probably play like 40, 45, 50 games on a year. Like, if he really goes out there and is healthy enough, I think it could work out. So If this guy is of value to you, let me know in the comments what your thoughts are and what he should be traded for. Do you send over that Ben Sherratt? Because that is apparently the asset that the Capitals value the most from Montreal. If you're a Caps fan, what would you want in return for Ilya Samsonov? Is it worth it to go out there and rely mostly on Vanacek? Or are you willing to bite that bullet and say, okay, I believe in VV. Do you guys call him VV? I just said that because it's VTech Vanacek. Yeah, I think that's a pretty appropriate nickname, right? VV, double VV squared. Let me know in the comments if you think he should go out there and carry the load 100% with Fucale, or do you want to keep Samsonov around? I hope you enjoyed this video. Trolls 99, and bye.